All right, now we've got 5.6. This is labor and wages. We're going to discuss that. So supply and demand. I know we have not, we skipped over topic 3 till we're back in person because it's such an important topic. I want to say that. So I'll brush a little bit how supply and demand are going to affect wage levels. We're going to talk about different skill levels and education affect wages. I've touched on that in the previous one. There are certain jobs that require college degrees, that require a high school diploma, or require a certain certificate program. I mean, you can't just go out and start cutting hair. You've got to graduate from cosmetology school and receive a license. There are other things that affect wage levels. I mean, you can't pay someone less than minimum wage, and there's other things like workplace safety laws. So we've got this concept of derived demand. This is a demand that's set by the demand for another good or service. So basically what happens, like, let's just use Uber for an example. If there are a whole lot of people demanding Ubers, and there's not enough Ubers out there, like people are like, oh my gosh, I can't get an Uber. There's not enough out there. Like there's 40 of us standing here and none of us can get an Uber. Then that demand for Ubers can cause a demand for Uber drivers, for Uber to hire more drivers. Demand for a certain clothing item or a toy might cause them to hire more workers to produce more toys. That's derived demand. Productivity of labor, this is going to be the quantity of output that a single unit of labor can produce. Now, what is that unit of labor? Is that unit one person? Is that unit 1 hour of someone working? Is it 1 hour of everybody in your company working? Okay, so if everybody in the company is working, how many cars can we produce in an hour? How many in 2 hours? Equilibrium wage. This is the wage rate that is set when the supply of workers meets the demand. So basically what you would have is, and this all comes from topic 3, you've got your supply and demand curves, and where they intersect, that is equilibrium. So basically, like if you're going out for jobs, like if you're an individual, if you're trying to get a job with me, I'm the employer, and we sat there and I said, I'll give you $7 an hour. And you're like 15, I'm 8, and 14. And finally I'm like, all right, 11. And you're like, done. That would be equilibrium. We both agreed. We came to an agreement. So when we talk about this rate, this would be where the price out there that people are getting paid, workers are willing to accept. And so the supply of workers meets the demand for workers, everybody gets hired. Again, if I had a company and I offered people only $4 an hour, there might be a supply of workers, but the demand, like no one's going to want the job. Who's going to come work for me for $4 an hour? Yeah, no, probably going to have to raise the price in order to get people who want to work for me. Unskilled labor. This would be a job that requires no specialized skills, education, or training. So if you're not getting a high school diploma, that's what category you're going to be in. Yeah, you spent 12 years in school. Let's not ruin it this last little bit. You got it. The finish line's right there. Because that's going to put you in the semi-skilled labor. That high school diploma will give you a minimal education. Because I mean, what education do you get less than a high school diploma? Sure, you might say, oh, middle school, but you don't get a diploma for it. You actually get a certificate of completion, the diploma that says, oh, I made it through high school. Yay, I'm a high school graduate. So that's semi-skilled labor. Maybe you've had some training, maybe you're a carpenter and you've trained, been an apprentice a little bit, but you wouldn't call yourself a professional. Skilled labor, this requires specialized skills and training. If you're a plumber, you're going to have to learn specific things to plumbing or electricity. You've had stuff that's specific to something, not just general knowledge. Professional labor, this is going to be advanced skills and education. Again, college degree, master's, MBA, but also like technical degrees. Maybe it's you go to ITT Tech and get something, or you go to Ball State ultrasound tech. That's a certificate program. That would be professional labor. Cosmetologists, they have to go to cosmetology school. That's professional labor. Okay, advanced skills and education. Now, you'll hear a lot of times like so-and-so broke the glass ceiling or things like that. Basically what that is it's an unofficial barrier, and they call it glass because you can see through it and almost don't know it's there, that sometimes prevent women and minorities from advancing to the top rank of organizations dominated by men. And again, this is why history is so important, because if you look back in history, businesses and the labor force was dominated by the white male. And, you know, it hasn't been that long ago that we had, you know, the civil rights movement, we had the women's rights movement. And so that really opened the door for more women and minorities to be able to go out there and get these jobs. So you have some people that say so-and-so broke the glass ceiling. Because they got a job that maybe no one's gotten before. Pat Summitt, I knew her at college, cheered for her. They would say she broke the glass ceiling in women's sports because she advanced to the top ranks of coaching in basketball. And even though she stayed at UT coaching the Lady Vols, she was offered jobs coaching men's programs and NBA programs. So she could have done that, but she stayed with her first love, which was University of Tennessee. But she did. She broke huge glass ceilings for women in sports. Labor union. This would be an organization of workers that try to improve working conditions, wages or benefits. Some jobs have unions. You've got the Teamsters. I'm not really sure all of them that are out there, but they basically are like a liaison that fight for those workers, again, to improve working conditions. Feather bedding. This is where you negotiate labor contracts that keep unnecessary workers on companies' payroll. So maybe you're in contract negotiations and you keep somebody that's really not needed on payroll. Maybe they're just 2 years from retirement. Somebody negotiates it to get them to retirement. I don't know. Could be some reason. Maybe it's their nephew. Who knows what the reason could be, but somehow you're keeping somebody on payroll that is not needed. So again, we're going back to this. What do you want to do when you graduate? Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to have more time? You know, again, when I made the decision to be a teacher, I knew that I would be giving up a lot of income potential, but I gained a lot of time. I gained a lot of time to myself. And so again, it's self-interest. What did I find more valuable? Having more money and working 80 hours a week corporately in the business world, or being home with my kids? And to me, that was a bigger deal while my kids were younger. Some jobs and professions are very, very well paid. Annual salary for surgeons was $230,000, but they got to go to school for like 10 years. Some surgeons earn a whole lot more, whole lot more. A lawyer might make $600 an hour. Yeah, some of them do. But then you turn around and you've got somebody that works, you know, over at the Exxon or the Shell station. They make $8 an hour. And again, you have to determine the size of your paychecks. And a lot of that has to do with education. Just about everything, every bit of it has to do with education. And do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to trade school? Are you going to take a job that will give you on-job experience and you work your way up? So let's talk about some of this. So neurosurgeons, again, A neurosurgeon specializes in anything to do with nerves and neurology. They can make over $500,000 a year. However, they've not only got to do the 4 years of medical school to be a doctor, but then they've got to turn around and do special stuff to be a neurosurgeon, not just a surgeon, but a neurosurgeon. So here's where we're going to talk a little bit about derived demand. So here's our example. We've got a factory. They can produce 2 robot toys per worker. So they got 3 workers hired. They produce 6 robot toys. Well, something happens and this toy is now like the it thing. Yes, everybody wants it. So we've got the blue people. Those are the customers. See my key up here. So we've actually got 9 people that want to buy this toy. But since I only have 3 workers, 2 toys per worker, I only have 6. So I got 3 people sitting here very, very upset because they're not getting the little rock'em sock'em toy. Okay? So this demand for this toy has given this derived demand for this factory to hire more workers. So the factory now hires what they hire. They end up hiring 5 more workers. And so now look what you got. Look how many more toys you got. So it works. It works really well. This is the demand graph for labor. And you can see here, this is the demand curve for restaurant cooks. Analyze the graph. If each cook works a 40-hour work week, how many cooks will be hired at $12 an hour and $16 an hour? Okay, so we want 40. If each cook works a 40 hours, worker hours per work week, so 40. So at $12, okay, we're going to 240. If you do 240 divided by 40, that's going to give us 6 workers. Okay. If it's at $16 an hour, this is all I can afford to pay is 160 worker hours a week. So what is 160 divided by 40? That means I can only hire 4 workers. So again, that's one of the issues is you start raising wages. Everybody's talking about like raising the minimum wage. And yeah, that's great. Like here, they raised it from $12 to $16 an hour. If I'm one of those getting the 16, I'm like, yes, I'm making more money. But here's the problem. When we do that, this can be one of the side effects right here, that 2 people lose their job because they can't afford to pay them anymore. That's one of the arguments against raising the minimum wage is that if we raise it and they pay people more, people are going to lose their jobs. And some people I do know Target raised their minimum wage just internally, and several people lost their jobs or had their hours cut because they can only afford to pay so much. Why do lawyers make more money than carpenters and carpenters make more than cashiers? What has a lot to do with skill level and education. And again, when I say education, we're not always talking about going to college, because carpenters, I mean, they do have schools where carpenters can learn woodworking skills. Hairdressers, my best friend goes to, they call them hair shows, where she learns new techniques and new trends. So jobs have 4 skill categories. We have that unskilled labor. So what have you got first? Unskilled. I can't get it in here. Unskilled, you have the semi-skilled, you have the skilled, and then you have the professional. Auto mechanics would be considered skilled. Nobody just walks in and knows how to work on a car. Most of them go to some type of school. We have Nashville Auto Diesel College in Nashville. It's great. Auto diesel mechanics make really, really good money. Even if you're somebody that never went to an auto college, maybe your dad was a mechanic and he's taught you all your life. That's still education. He's been teaching you, since you were little, how to work on cars, and he's a professional, so you've been an apprentice under him. That's still education. That's gaining experience. So here is supply and demand. So you see supply is the green, demand is the purple. For workers in high-risk jobs. So the supply, there's not that many people willing to do high-risk jobs. And there's a demand for them. So you can see this makes their pay higher. Linemen is it's a risky job. They're climbing up high. They're dealing with electricity. It's one of the reasons why their pay is high. They're highly sought after. A low risk job here, okay, like a dog walker. Okay, there's not much risk there. The dog may bite you, but you kind of know that off the bat and say, no, I'm not taking your dog. So they're probably not going to get paid as much because can't anybody walk a dog? It doesn't take much skill to do that. So when you have that, and when you have unskilled jobs, more people qualify. Therefore, the supply of people that can take the job is much greater, and therefore it lowers the price. The more a job is specialized as something specific, the higher it's going to pay because there's fewer people that are specialized for that job. Now, have we had discrimination in the labor market? Yes. A lot of people still talk about women are not paid equally as men. Some minority groups have said they've, claim they receive lower wages than white male workers for the same work. This would be discrimination. It does. And we've got laws against them. We do have laws now. Again, even though there's laws, does that mean that it's not going to happen? I don't care. I think there's gonna be some sort of discrimination as long as there's humans on this earth. And I've seen discrimination in my lifetime all the way around. I've been discriminated against because I'm female. I've been discriminated against. I've literally been told that they didn't need another white person. So I was the next white person in line, so I was cut. I think everybody in their lifetime is going to somehow be discriminated. One time I wasn't a blonde. So what I need to do, I dye my hair blonde, or, I can't be a model. I'm discriminated against because I'm not tall. There's certain things that we are, but when you start talking about a business that's constantly not willing to hire women, not willing to hire minorities, you're talking major discrimination. You are violating federal laws, and that's not good. And you definitely can go after people for that. This is one of the discriminations that's often talked about, is that men make more money than women. And if you look at these two lines, you've got definite consistency here in the difference. So if this right here would be proof if you've got someone going, yeah, we've made great strides in equality in pay between men and women. This graph right here says, no, we haven't. Women are getting paid more, but men are getting paid more at the same rate. Why? Why are men making more money than women just because they're a man and they're a woman? I'm sure this goes back to culture, where it used to be the man that worked and the woman stayed at home, and it's something that needs to be fixed, and it does. It needs to be fixed. It's a form of discrimination, gender gap. EEOC, this is Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This is a group that really strives for there to be equal employment opportunities for everybody. One time there were some workers that were told they had to reveal confidential information to their employer when they took sick leave. This will be a lot of times why an employer will not ask you what's wrong with you, is because there's laws against it. They just will say, I need a doctor's note that just says, you know, Amy Edwards was seen in my office and does not need to return to work till blah, blah, blah. They don't have to put why. And one of those reasons is, you know, if I was to sit there and say, let them know I had cancer, I don't. But if I did, what would keep my employer from finding a way to terminate me because my cancer might make their insurance rates go up? Or if I all of a sudden became diabetic or something, then, you know, you have the, unfortunately, the wrong employer, and they might terminate you for what it's going to cost them. So the EEOC fought on behalf of these workers and won. There's other additional factors that affect wages. Minimum wage laws say that you can't pay anybody less than that. The only people I know that make less than minimum wage would be waiters and waitresses, because they are a service business. There's a different law with them. They get paid around $2.35 an hour. Workplace safety laws can affect wages, employer actions, and labor unions. All these things. The labor union can go in and fight on your behalf. Like here, these are women. 1938 in San Francisco, and they made garments. They worked in a factory, they made garments, and they went on strike because they felt they needed more pay, they needed better hours, and they needed improved working conditions. Maybe they were having to work 12 hours a day and had no time with their family, and maybe they were only making $1 an hour, and where they worked, they had, you know, mice and rats crawling all over them, and it was gross. Like, can you imagine that? So they might be picketing just so the mice would go away. I don't know, I would. And that is all for 5-6. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I'll see you for 5-7.